a spectacular wildlife wonderland. We're looking east there towards the Mozambican border, probably about 60 kilometers from where we're sitting now, which is just shy of 45 miles. And then it goes down into the coastal plain and to the Indian Ocean. We began there with some wildebeest, the voices of whom you have not heard. It is in fact me talking to you. My name is James Henry. On the camera today, David Eastaugh, sporting a very nice weathered blue hat and buff.
Why, thank you.
Yes, very nice. Well done, David. And on the other vehicle, we have Byron Serrao making his world debut today, filmed, abetted and guided by Brian. So we've got Byron on what I'm doing and Brian on the camera. I find it very confusing. Anyway, so please give him a warm welcome, and I know many of you have already done that. And then in the final control, we have Kirsten McLennan-Smith talking in my ear, and I think it is Chelsea Bunn twiddling the knobs and tapping on the keys. Now, what I thought we'd do is just sit here for a little while and see what we can see, smell, and hear. So let's do the hearing bit first. So what I'd really like you to do is sit where you are at home and close your eyes, turn your speakers up, and just listen for the next 20 seconds. Right, so what you could probably hear there, I imagine, was the wind blowing and it rustling through the leaves. And if you have a very good set of speakers, you may have heard the odd leaf actually falling to the ground and the slight but very gentle and nice sound of the wildebeest hooves walking over the grass there. You'd have to have exceptional speakers to get that lot though. Then, in terms of the smell, take a deep breath in and pretend you're not sitting at home. And it's just a very fresh smell because there's this front coming in out of the southeast. That's the camera is facing to the east now. So just to the right-hand side of your screen, the wind is blowing from there. And that gentle wintry smell of sort of what I call bush potpourri, which is the drying of the leaf litter on the ground there. Then there are two things here that I'd like you to see, two of which they're both quite difficult. Now the first one, Davey, is just over there. Now if you are walking through the bush, you've got to be very careful. You've got to have what we call 360-degree awareness. There, behind a little bush, sitting chewing his cud, minding his own business, flapping his ears to get rid of the flies, is a rather large buffalo bull. Now the hunters will tell you the most dangerous animal in Africa. Well, if you tried to shoot me, I'd become quite dangerous too. If you're not trying to do them any harm, they're generally fairly docile, and that little fellow's, well, big fella, is just sitting there very peaceably, shielding himself from the wind by the trees and chewing his cud. And then there is another little bird, Dave, just in front of that wildebeest behind. You can see a bird on the ground there. That's it. Down a bit. There he is. That's it. A Senegal lapwing, everybody. So just in this little spot here, despite the fact that the weather's not great and we are therefore expecting probably a relatively quiet drive, but we'll see what happens. Just in this little section, 3 or 4 really nice species, lots to listen to, lots to smell, and the general sense of peacefulness of Africa has descended. Now, a great treat for you everybody, my friend Byron Serrao. Go and have a say hi to him.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Sunset Drive. Thank you very much for that introduction, James. It's great to be with all of you. Good to be back, actually. Not sure if any of you can remember, I was on Safari Live about a year ago. It's fantastic to be back, and I'm here for a week now, filling in for Brent, who's on leave, getting bit of a break, a much needed break, I'm sure. So yes, great to be here with all of you. what a beautiful start with these two waterbuck bulls. Really incredible set of horns on this male. Really great to see them. And as he walks away from us, you can see that very prominent white ring around the rump. Very distinctive marking of the waterbuck. Just dropping some dung over there. No privacy in the bush. Waterbuck are very interesting antelope. Now, one of the antelope that are very reliant on water, and that's actually where they get the name from, waterbuck. And you'll often find them close to dams, water holes or rivers, because they do need to drink quite regularly. And they are one of the antelope that can suffer from dehydration quite quickly if they don't get to water within a few days. There, they're just moving through the thicket. If you look closely, as he's just moved off there, you could see that very shaggy coat. They do have one of the longer coats out of most of the antelope that we have in this area. It's just moved off a little bit there. You can just see those horns. And there they go. Great. It's amazing how they can blend into the thicket, especially now in winter. The bush is very dry at the moment, so that dark coat, that grey coloration really blends in nicely. So what a lovely start. It's always great starting something like this when you've got something to talk about. As I mentioned, it's thanks to James for the introduction. It's great to be back with all of you, and I'm going to be here for the next week. So hopefully we'll get some exciting sightings. I know you guys have been seeing a lot. And so I'm very excited, hopefully share some of my knowledge and my stories with all of you. It's always great to have different stories from different guides from different areas. I think, why don't we carry on moving along? This is a nice open area up ahead. Some bit of a drainage line to the right. Maybe we get some activity, animals moving in and out of there. Let's keep going for a little bit. And please don't forget to send your questions in. #SafariLive on Twitter, or otherwise you can email us at questions@WildEarth.tv. And because it's my first drive, maybe you can be lenient and keep the questions fairly easy. No, I'm just kidding. I think, why don't we head back to James? I know he has got some buffalo, and let's see what else I can find for you so long.
Fresh, raw buffalo flesh eaten straight off the living animal. That's the way to do it. Anyway, you can see how the oxpecker is sitting there, and you can see his yellow bill. Doesn't seem to be irritating the buffalo at all, and this sort of behavior, of course, has given rise to the thought that they are not in fact so helpful, these oxpeckers, that they in fact are rather more parasitic than they are symbiotic. In other words, they don't necessarily help Byron the buffalo there, rather they keep his wounds open, possibly opening him up to infection and that sort of thing. So while they do take ticks, which undoubtedly is a help, once a wound like that opens up, the oxpeckers maintain it by pecking away like that. Much more uncommon than the red-billed oxpeckers. And Byron, of course, is not on his own out here. Oh no. Now, we had a lovely question from one of the kiddies today in the classroom that we did a school drive this morning for a school in Johannesburg. And, well, it was a question I posed them. I said, why would an impala be with a whole group of kudu? Well, the same might be asked of Byron here. Why would he be with all these wildebeest? And the answer, of course, is that it provides him with some security. And I suppose, you know, being his size, it also provides the wildebeest with a bit of security, because lions will think twice about going for a chap like this enormous buffalo bull. And it's interesting to see them together because they can actually be confused. Some people do confuse wildebeest for buffalo, but when you see them together like this, there can be no confusion. And they are also, I mean, that's an adult there on the left-hand side of that little group of wildebeest. Probably weighs at an outside maximum 250 kilograms. That is about a third of a really big buffalo bull. So, I mean, they are substantially smaller than these big buffalo. All lying down, all sort of chewing the cud, huddling together. It is a little cool. It's not cold, it's 22 degrees Celsius or so, which I think puts us at, oh dear, it's gone out of my mind, probably about 72 degrees Fahrenheit, if I'm not wrong. 71, I wasn't doing too badly there. And I was very remiss of me. I remember during my introduction, I forgot to tell you that you must please talk to us. I think Byron did tell you. Hashtag Safari Live or questions at WildEarthTV if you're on the email. That was extremely remiss of me. Like I said yesterday, please do not bother to send any postal messages. The South African Postal Service has been on strike for seemingly the last decade or so. Likewise, there's no telephone signal out here. So, that is the wildebeest. There is Byron the buffalo with his yellow-billed oxpecker friends. And I think we shall press on now and find many leopards. Do you want to see many leopards, David?
Sounds good, James.
Very good. On we go. Oh dear. Byron has not had a good start from a technical point of view. He is already black screen on Wendy. Oh well. Now we're heading down the western sort of side of Djuma. See if we can't pick up some tracks of Shadow maybe. And her little baby cubby. And if not her, maybe Karula. We looked for Karula's tracks this morning. She was supposed to have come north yesterday. And, you know, out of Little Gowrie, which is to the south of us. And our favourite 11, at least 12-year-old female leopard, well, I couldn't find any tracks today. Brent didn't find any tracks, so I'm not sure that she did come across. But let's hope. Maybe she and the cubs have come back during the course of the day. Now, if you are a new viewer, we do tend to focus quite a lot of our time finding the big cats, simply because they're so entertaining. Well, most of the time, especially the leopards down here, because the leopards, at the moment, there are 2 or 3 females with cubs. And of course, nothing is cuter than a cat cub. And the lions are also beginning to have cubs around the place at the moment, quite by coincidence. They're not seasonal breeders at all. And so a female has given birth on Torchwood to the east of us. We think there's a female lion on, well, obviously a female lion because males don't normally give birth. The female lion, I keep doing it. A lioness here at Djuma, we think, has given birth somewhere in a drainage line behind where the camp is. We haven't seen her, but we've seen her going in and out of there. She seems to be lactating. It's almost impossible to get in there with a vehicle. So with any luck, very soon, we'll be having lots of sightings of little lion cubs. And I know this is almost sacrilegious, but I think they're even cuter than leopard cubs. So we'll ease our way down to the south. It's been a blustery kind of a cool day. I'm hoping this front is going to go away tomorrow. The real joy of winter is that the fact that it's, well, we have those chilly mornings, which are actually quite pleasant. And then the middle of the day and around this time of the day, the weather is just sumptuously perfect. Great big, deep blue winter skies and lovely heat. Hello, Gerard. You're interested in whether there have been bushfires in this area lately. David, do you have a lighter on you?
I've got some matches.
Please, will you give them to me? Gerard, I'm now going to attempt to light a bushfire. Are you ready, David? Are you afraid?
I'm very afraid.
Get the fire extinguisher out. I'm going to light a bushfire. It's cable tied in, but there it is. Now, Gerard, I think you can probably see where this is going. So observe me trying to light the bush on fire. Oh, there we go. We had a bit of a flame there. Come on. There we are. That's it.
I actually just had a quick glimpse of a lion track. I'm just off the vehicle, just having a look to see if I can gauge how fresh they are and which direction they go. I don't see them. They actually may have been from last night or early this morning. Let's just have a quick look around here. They did head in this direction. I understand you just lost James there for a second or two. This is always exciting. One of my favorite parts of working in the bush is tracking, trying to find the animals. It's a complete science. It's incredible to try and work out where these animals have gone and look for little signs in the bush. I don't seem to see any other tracks. There are some buffalo tracks around here too. So I'm assuming that I'm correct in saying that these tracks are probably from this morning or last night, early this morning or last night. Looks like they've just crossed over the road and headed in that direction. Let's carry on. We're approaching a little dam or water hole. So let's see, maybe there's a little bit of activity. Around there. One thing I did forget to do was introduce the trusty cameraman I have with me. And that's Brian this afternoon. So you've got the double B team with the thumb. It's great to have Brian. He's been around for a long time. So he's giving me a hand and letting me know exactly what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. It's so funny. I've been guiding for quite a long time, but this is a very different experience. And even though I've done it before, the nerves still kick in. It's an amazing feeling. It's actually very exciting. So if I do forget anything or get something slightly wrong, please don't hesitate to let me know. I know James was doing a fire demonstration with you. I really hope he hasn't managed to burn himself. Perhaps you should go and check on him quickly, just while we head to this water hole and see what he has got up to, and then we'll see you back again shortly.
Right, everyone, sorry about that. We're not sure what happened. I've beaten David with this burnt log here, and he seems to have fixed whatever the problem was. Now, Gerard, but the main point of that was just to show you that there's nothing to burn out here. But the point of this log here is to show you that bushfires do come through here every so often. We've had such a poor rainy season that there is no grass here. You can see there's absolutely no grass around, and that means that a bushfire could not actually come through here. The trees don't burn. They only burn if there's a substantial fuel load underneath them, and that fuel load is provided by thick grass, which in turn is provided by a really wet, rainy season. We haven't had that at the moment. And so there's no chance of a bushfire coming through here at all. It will not, you cannot get these trees to sort of have a fire that jumps from tree to tree. So no chance of a bushfire here. You can see that they definitely have come through here in the past. And I think that fire, was 2 summers ago, if I'm not mistaken. So normally the fire season is but any time sort of from August to the first rains, when the grass is still quite dry and long, and there's no moisture in it. The heat starts to build as we go towards the summertime. The wind starts to blow. We get these big, strong, hot northwesters, and also we get lightning strikes as the first storms of the summer start to build over the mountains. None of that is going to happen this year, simply because there's no grass for anything to burn. Right, on we go. Sorry about the black screen, not good. I'm not sure why it happened. We were sitting right dead still. Right, we'll just go back to me old pal Byron. He's at Biffle's Hook Dam.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope James didn't injure himself at all while attempting to start a fire. Have a look what we've got here. 3 beautiful impala, some young males. You can see the horns aren't fully developed yet that have come down to drink at the dam. They are really beautiful, beautiful antelope. Even though they are quite abundant in this area, it's still really fantastic to see them. Doesn't matter what wildlife it is, it's always incredible. And especially coming down to drink. One of the reasons why I love it so much is because you notice their behavior and how alert these animals are when they come down to water holes. It's almost like they know that there could be potential danger around. You know, predators often during the heat of the day, especially in summer, will come down to drink in the mornings or in the afternoons, and may spend the day lying in the shade of the trees around water holes. So whenever animals come down to drink, whether it be antelope or buffalo or any of the large animals, they are always alert and always on the lookout for potential danger or potential predators that may be lurking in the bushes. They had a quick little drink and off they go. And then there's a beautiful picture of the hippo with a terrapin on the back. Have a look at that. Francie from Oregon wanted to know which antelope in this area has got the biggest horns. So Francie, I'm not sure if you had a look earlier at those waterbuck that we saw, but the waterbuck, those big males, have huge horns, very long horns that are quite curved actually. One of the other antelope that really do have a large set of horns are the kudu. The kudu, the males, have these beautiful spiral horns which spiral out. And it's always impressive to see a large kudu bull with a set of horns like that. And it's amazing how they've adapted to living in areas where the thickets are. Now the kudu do something quite interesting, and I've seen it many times. If they get startled and they're looking to move away from anything, whether it be a vehicle or potential danger, what they do is, all the males do is they tilt their head slightly back, and those horns go down down their back. So it just takes them out of the air, and they're able to move through the thicket without getting those big horns stuck in the branches, which makes it easy for them to dart through a thicket. It's amazing how animals adapt to their surroundings, especially with horns of that size. Let's have a look at this terrapin again on the back of that hippo. Just enjoying, I'm assuming he's trying to warm up. So it's been quite overcast today, but there has been glimpses of sunlight, and I think that's possibly why the terrapin is on the back of the hippo. It's, just a safe vantage point for that terrapin. It's not on the water's edge. It can slide off the back of that hippo into the water very quickly if anything does pose a threat. But I think that terrapin's quite safe up there. And also what the terrapin actually do is they will feed off ticks off of these animals. If that hippo did have any ticks around its back or rump, then that terrapin would be picking off those ticks. This looks like a mother and a calf hippo that's in the water hole there. And I understand these two are resident in this area, and you do see them quite often. I think also with this, generally in winter though, hippo like to bask on the banks to warm up in the sun during the day. But I think with this overcast weather we've had today, it's been a little bit cooler, and it's probably a bit warmer for them in the water. So they're trying to stay out of the cold wind, or the cool wind rather, and just stay in the comfort of the water. So Marianne in Arkansas would like to know a little bit more about my background. So thank you very much, Marianne, for asking. So I have been a guide for close on 8 years now. And I started my guiding career at a well-known game reserve called Londolozi, which I spent about 5 years there, just south of here. And James actually was my trainer when I started there. So we go way back, and it's actually great to be back and be able to guide with him. So guided there for about 5 years, and since then I have been doing private guiding. So I now guide guests throughout Southern Africa, which is fantastic. Get to see different places, get to go to different areas, and accompany guests on safaris all over, which is really great. And every now and then fill in where I can for Safari Live for one or two other lodges if they need a hand. As I said, this is a very different experience for me. No guests on the vehicle, millions of guests around the world. So it's a treat. It's a real privilege to be able to be out here and guide. A few little birds that have come down to the water's edge to get a drink of water. There's some starlings. There's a grey go-away bird. I'm not sure if Brian can get them. There we go. See the grey go-away bird going down to drink, and the starling to the right. It's amazing being back here and just listening to all these bird calls again. It's really fantastic, and one of the things I really enjoy about guiding. I think what we're going to do is we're going to move on from this waterhole now, see what else we can find. Why don't you go see what James has? I think he's got something quite interesting for you.
Obviously, we have something quite interesting for you. Obviously. Thankfully, David and I found some zebras here. They're very pretty, especially juxtaposed with the golden colours of the winter behind. I'm just going to be quiet for the next I've completely lost my train of thought. I'm going to be quiet for the next little while because I'm going to tell you what I thought I heard once we've listened. Right, so everybody, shh. I can't hear it anymore. What I thought I heard was that noise that little leopard cubs make when they talk to each other. It's kind of a noise that they make. But I haven't heard it again. It's unlikely the zebra would be around, but the zebra would be a danger to leopard cubs because they will not tolerate predators, and if they can get one up on them, they absolutely will. Now I can hear what I was hearing. It was some helmet shrikes calling in the distance, and now that we've got a bit closer to them, I can hear. So that's a youngster, and probably its mother not too far just behind there, and then off to the left-hand side we've got a whole lot more of them, just right here actually, and this will be one sort of kinship group, a kinship group led by a stallion and his wives, and the oldest female definitely taking on a kind of matriarchal role. Let me just slowly ease forward. I think they're such magnificent creatures, these, I really do. They're not the nicest, friendliness-wise, but they are absolutely beautiful. There is still no satisfactory explanation for their colour. They've got their little winter coats are. Look how fluffy that one is. It's definitely got a winter coat. In the same way that horses out here get winter coats, so do the zebras. William, you want to know how it is that their stripes help them against predators? Well, we're not entirely sure, to be honest, but the theory goes that because their main predators are colorblind, what happens is that they're unable to discern the outline of the zebra, especially when it's moving. So if it's moving through this kind of woodland or very long grass in low light, when their predators are likely to be hunting, then apparently it's quite difficult to pick a direction that the animal's moving, and it's also quite difficult to figure out exactly where the animal starts and where it doesn't, especially if it's in a group of other zebras. So that's basically why they think that stripes help with predators. But there are various fangled theories about how they could also be for cooling, and that a convection current is set up between the black and the white. I don't buy that. I think it's nonsense, because it doesn't make any sense to me as to why they would be the only animal with stripes for cooling. The stripes, for example, on a nyala or on this more subtle stripes on a wildebeest are almost certainly for anti-predator things. So I really think that that's why these zebras have got their stripes the way they do. I'm pretty sure that it's an anti-predator device. And a fairly successful one. Very few zebra I've seen get eaten out here. Probably a few more in East Africa, where it's a bit more open. They're not in the woodland quite as much as they are here. They're more in the grassland areas. But they are so like horses, these Burchell zebras. They live in the same herd structure, the stallion and his mares. They're not very good for riding, apparently. Their backs are not great for bearing load. And they also have a disturbing propensity to bite you if you try and get too close to them. There are more zoo workers in the world than tigers, which I think is quite something. It wasn't too far from here that we saw a stallion, or a group of stallions without a herd, kill a young foal that had been excluded from its herd for whatever reason that was, or it had lost its herd, and it was making a sort of bleating sound that would have eventually attracted predators, and the stallions wanted nothing to do with it, and they destroyed it. It was bleating away. It was the most heart-rending thing to see. Anyway, as we go also towards the dry season, these zebra are in a fairly advantageous state, in that because they are what we call hindgut fermenters, so they don't ruminate like the buffalo and all the other antelope. They don't have to re-chew their food, and that means as the food quality drops, they are able simply to process more food. So like a ruminant has to stop eating at some stage, because it has to lie down, re-chew its food, swallow it again, and then only can it continue eating. A zebra and an elephant and a hippopotamus and a warthog, they're not the same. They don't have to re-chew their food, so they don't have digestion that's as efficient. But once the food quality drops to the quality that it is now, you'll find that being a non-ruminant like the zebra is probably a more efficient strategy. And you can see, if you look at them compared with the condition of the buffalo, which are now starting to look a little bit hippie, their hips are sticking out, the zebra look in fine form. Alrighty, that's the zebras. Let's carry on. We're going to go around the corner to see if we can't spot, well, something at the dam down there. Then we'll continue along just to check if Karula's tracks haven't come across. If they haven't, I think we might well head towards Arathusa and see what's there. I know a leopard was seen there this morning. I know Brent tried to get to it, but I'm not sure what happened. Oh, well, that's quite nice. Byron's got some tracks of a leopard at Buffelshoek Dam. I suspect, given the direction of the male leopard tracks that Brent was following this morning. Those could well be Sindile, so that would be nice. Acadia, I wish I could, but I'm afraid I can't. You say, can I give you some more information about Junior, our old pal from the Nkuhuma Pride? He must be pushing 4 by now, I would have thought. And his 3-year-old companion, seemingly from the Mangayan Pride or the Salala Breakaway Pride. That's all I know. He's hooked up with that Mangayan male. They formed a little coalition, which I think is rather sweet. Both of them don't have very good manes yet. They look like sort of 2 teenagers skulking about the place. And, yeah, let's see what happens. I don't know. I think the Mangayan male, if I'm not mistaken, is probably the offspring of one of the Majingalan males, who, of course, is the coalition of 4 dominant in the west of the Sabi Sand. And Junior, we know, is most likely the offspring of one of the Matimbas. So they will be almost unrelated, which is great for the genetics of whatever pride they take over. And let's see what happens. I suspect quite strongly their best bet is going to be to wait out the fate of the Majingalan coalition, because they are old now, although they do seem to be very dominant still. So I mean, if those 2 guys can hang around here for a while, maybe hook up with the rest of those, I think there were 3 Mangayan sub-adult males, and if they can hook up with the 3 of them, they'll have a real chance in the Western Sabi Sand. Otherwise, they're going to have to press on and go somewhere else. I don't think the Birminghams are going anywhere anytime soon. They've got a lot of growing to do. They're already completely dominant over this area, and they're an impressive force, despite the fact that they're not the biggest lions in the world. I mean, they will get bigger. But Junior, with any luck, carries the genetics of the hairy-bellied Matimba male, and he is a massive, highly impressive lion, and hopefully Junior will carry those genes, and it'd be very nice to see him and the Mangayan Pride male forming a coalition and taking over someday, but not in this area. We don't want them in this area, because then there will be almost unquestionably there'll be a whole lot of inbreeding that goes on. So let's ease our way onto the wall here. Here we are, Treehouse Dam. Oh, there's an impala, David. Can you believe it? There. Impala male, and a whole lot of female impalas to the right of him, but we'll just watch him for now while I scan off into the dam and just see if I can't spot anything spotted. Unfortunately, I cannot. Very graceful are the impala, and of course highly water dependent, so they will lurk around the water holes like this, hoping to try and get some water. And believe it or not, there is actually water in this dam. Let's just have a look at the females there. I'm going to go a little bit forward. Go ahead. Right. Talking on the down. Alarm calling, I can hear them. I can hear them going swizzle, swizzle, swizzle down over there. Let's just go and have a look quick. I do want to keep going that way, but let's just go and have a look down there. There is actually some water in this dam. I know it looks very dry, but the elephants have dug some holes and there's water flowing underneath the ground here. And the elephants have very cleverly found it. They can feel it in their feet, and then they dig a hole and they find themselves something to eat. There's just some swizzling of birds here, which I think is worth investigating. Now, Reese, a very nice question from you, one to which I have tried to find an answer for many years. There are the birds. They're in that tree there, Dave. You can just see them in that dead tree shouting at the top there. What are they shouting at? Let's just have a look, see. They are white-crested helmet shrike. They might just be shouting at each other. Reese, I'll get back to your question now, because it's a good one. Now, you say, in all the areas that we drive, are we more likely to find animals in some areas than others? On a very, very general level, yes, I suppose, maybe, Reese. But largely, it is very random. I think trying to predict where animals are going to be, I mean, we know where, for example, Karula's territory is. We know where Shadow's territory is. And so we'll go into those areas, and then we might be lucky to find those leopards. But in terms of where other things are, you know, on a hot day you might be able to predict that buffalo would be at the water, or that elephants at some stage would come down to the water. But no, I wouldn't say that there are any areas here that are where it becomes easy to predict where animals are going to be. I don't know what they're shouting at, but they're impala so close that I don't think it can be a terrestrial predator. It might be a snake or something like that. Oh, no, hang on, they're alarm calling. There's something going on here. Well, there was one alarm call. The rest... Oh. I've seen something. Those birds are still going crazy. Something is going on here. Something's going on. Where are they looking? They're not looking nowhere near where the birds are looking. They've smelt something. And two are looking... Oh, no, now they're just fighting. They're uneasy. Something is putting them ill at ease. This is fascinating. I don't know what's going on. Let's sit here. It's worth us sitting here. Now the other one's alarming at the other end there. And it's looking off into the distance. But there are a whole lot that are not alarm calling. It might just be that they're cross with each other. This is deeply frustrating. I need to work on my Impala language skills. Now looking this way. That's an alarm call. I'm so deeply confused now. There's half of them are just standing there eating. Just go a little bit forward. Oh, Jack, you say maybe it's a leopard or even a honey badger. Absolutely, maybe it is. And that's what I think that those birds were definitely alarm calling. Now they're all looking up to the top there. You know what, I think it's going to be worth having a little drive around there. Let's just stick our heads in here. frightening impala. They're looking over in this direction. This is where those birds were shouting from. Those two still look like they want to have a fight with each other. What can you see, David?
Warthog just up ahead.
Warthog running away. You can smell elephant here. You can also hear the bird's alarm calling off to that side. And they're looking down there now, the impala. Gosh, I don't know what's going on. I think we need to go out onto the road and back off towards the east there. Let's see if we don't pick something up there. These are all male impala though. This is so frustrating. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, let's go back out onto the road. We'll do a quick turn. While I do that, while I investigate, let's go and get an update from Byron on his leopard tracks. Hopefully I'll have a decent answer for you when you get back.
Well, that's very exciting. So James has got alarm calls and he's going to go and investigate further. Hopefully he comes up with something. That's always a positive thing, having antelope alarm calling or birds alarm calling. Most of the time there is a chance that there's something around, a predator most likely. So Brian and I have just been driving around. We spent a bit of time at the dam, at Buffelshoek Dam. We did have some lion tracks around there that we followed a little bit, but I think those were from this morning. I know Brent and James had lions calling early this morning, and that's possibly the pride, because I think it came from this area. So I think that may have been the pride that they heard early this morning. It's a lovely, cool afternoon. I really enjoy driving in weather like this, because you can tend to go out a little bit earlier on game drive, and you can spend more time, especially in the mornings, out on longer drives. And generally, the animals are a little bit more active in weather like this when it's a bit cooler. James has just asked a question about any interesting animals that we don't see in the Sabi Sands area. James, good question. I'm trying to think now in other areas that I've been recently. So I have seen... I'm trying to think. So we've got... animals like aardvark and pangolin, which you do get in this area though, but they are not seen very often. They're very, very shy nocturnal animals. There are other parts of South Africa and Southern Africa that you tend to see them a little more frequently, especially dry areas. In the Kalahari, for example, you tend to see a lot more aardvark and pangolin activity. We also get animals like a striped polecat, which actually looks almost like a skunk. It isn't a skunk, but it does also have a chemical defense like a skunk. It does spray a chemical defense. which does smell very pungent. The distribution says they do occur in this area too, but I've never seen in this area. I've only seen in the Kalahari. Trying to think what else. There are quite a number of antelope species that you'd get in other areas. They perhaps are suited better for drier, more arid conditions as opposed to here. Animals like the Gemsbok, or otherwise known as the oryx. Very, very beautiful antelope with long horns, long straight horns. You get a lot of them in the desert. What else? Springbuck, which we don't get in this area, is our national animal for South Africa. Beautiful, dainty gazelle, the only gazelle we get in South Africa, and they also prefer generally the drier, more arid conditions. So I hope that answers a bit of your question, James. It's generally antelope species in that I would say where there's a bit more of a distribution difference. So Valeria, good afternoon. Thank you for your question. Valeria would like to know one of my favorite or interesting bush stories. This is always interesting. Let me think. Shucks. Interesting bush story. So funny, I think when you don't think about it, a lot of them come to mind, and then when you do think about one specific story, they seem to evade you. One of my favorite stories, though, is a story about one of my favorite animals, which is a honey badger. Now, a honey badger is incredibly tough and tenacious. It's a fantastic animal. I don't think it's afraid of anything. The few honey badgers that I've seen in the wild, they just have such character, and it's almost like they don't care. Wherever they want to go, they will go and do whatever they like. One afternoon, we were following a pack of wild dogs. Wild dogs are always exciting animals to follow. They're always doing something, specifically in the morning and the afternoon, and generally always on the hunt. And this afternoon, a pack of 6 wild dog were off on a hunt, and they were running. What they do is they run fairly quickly, and they generally just flush wildlife. Whatever they can find or see, they will try and hunt, and they work together as a pack. So this particular afternoon, a pack of wild dogs ran through a clearing and managed to flush 2 honey badgers, which were hiding in a thicket. And these 2 honey badgers ran out, and I thought, oh, this is going to be fantastic. And the honey badgers ran off, and the wild dogs were chasing them. And I thought, oh, if they catch one of these honey badgers, it's going to be a very interesting story. And about 2 minutes into the chase, one of the honey badgers decided he had had enough of this, turned around, and, ooh, have a look over there. See if Brian can get that for you. Fantastic. Some elephants. That is great. Brian and I were actually saying we would love to see elephant this afternoon. It's one of my favorite. Oh, and there's a youngster. Look at the baby. I think, why don't we sit tight here for a while and see if they look like they are moving closer. Can hear a female communicating there. Very deep, low frequency grumble, which is a vocalization. And that's just for them to communicate with each other. I'm just going to reverse for a second, just because I think we might get a nice view of that young one. Beautiful female with her calf behind her. Let's see, she seems quite relaxed. She opened the ears a little bit, but I don't think she's too worried about us. That's just a little warning. Look at this young one. This is so special. Oh, she's just turning again. She's not showing any sign of aggression at all. This female is purely watching us. She just wants to make sure we're no threat to her calf. And often, and most of the time, I find with elephant, if you sit still and allow them to approach you, they become quite relaxed and comfortable with you being around. And then they carry on with their business. As you can see, this female is breaking off some branches from that little bush with her trunk. And let's just see how she feeds on it. It's a nice close-up there. She might be looking for leaves, but earlier... Oh, yes, I see she's missing the tip of her trunk there. Do you see that? That's very interesting. I'm not too sure what could have caused that. I really don't know what that could be from. But it doesn't seem like it has affected her at all. She's still able to feed. She's looking after this calf very nicely. Calf looks healthy. Look at that. It's incredible. These youngsters, look, trying to use its trunk there, it takes them about 2 years to really work out how to use that trunk properly. So you'll see they'll fool around a little bit, they'll swing it around, they'll try and feed, try and copy the mother and learn from the female. Now, I understand that this herd has been seen around Djuma a number of times, and that you have seen this female and her calf before. This female is probably quite easily recognized because of that broken tusk, that left tusk that is slightly broken, and then obviously the trunk, the missing tip. I'm not sure if you all heard that, but there was again that low frequency grumble and that vocalization to communicate with the other elephant, which I can still hear. We cannot see them now, but I can hear them in the bushes. Hopefully they come through in this direction too. It's a bit of sun coming out now. Look at that. Oh, perfect. This is incredible. Look at that little one. So Elaine has an interesting question. As the elephant approached us, she scraped her foot on the ground. Now, Elaine would like to know why the elephant scraped its foot on the ground. Elaine, there are a few reasons, or possible reasons. The one is often elephant will scrape the ground with their foot to try and loosen some sand, and they pick up the sand and they throw it on their back, and it helps to cool them down, or get rid of some of the flies and ticks that might be sitting on them. The other reason is often what they do is they kick the roots of little branches or shoots to try and loosen it, and they'll pick that up with their trunk and they'll feed on it. I think what she did there in that particular situation was when elephant approach a vehicle or something that they are not sure of, what they do is something called mock feeding. So they it appears as if they are feeding. They'll wrap their trunk around something, or they'll do something that looks like normal behavior. Here comes another one, Brian, if you want to look to our right, another young one. And what the female does is, or what elephant often do, is mock feeding. And what they're doing is just assessing the situation. Are we a threat? Are we a danger? She just wants to make sure, especially with the calf close by. As soon as she became comfortable with us again, she started to move on. And I think that behavior right there was purely for that reason. That calf, I think, was just as it passed out. It is lying down and completely fast asleep, it looks like. Now, animals actually don't sleep like we do. They don't go into a state of sleep where they're not aware of what's around them. They will always know and pick up on sounds and smells of anything around them, because they have to be very careful of predators. With the female and the other elephant around, that calf is very comfortable. So I think that's why it's decided to lie down and rest. And elephant do lie down and rest. Not for long periods of time. There we go. Calf's up again. See that? But if it gets a chance, especially at that young age, it will try and rest a little bit. Wasn't that amazing? Look at the mouth. This is fantastic. There again, some communication from the elephant. Oh, and the sun is perfect right now for this sighting, warming us up a little bit. We're in a little bit of a drainage line, so we're a little sheltered from the wind that we had earlier, or the little breeze, the cool breeze. So it's actually fantastic right now. Amazing conditions. Watch that young one pulling that branch through its mouth. Often what elephant like to do is they'll take a branch, put it in the mouth, and they roll it through their teeth. And what that does is it breaks the bark off of the branch, which is something that they really enjoy feeding on. The bark contains all the nutrients and the good stuff that they want. So they'll strip the bark off, feed on that, and then often drop the stick or the branch that's left behind. This is very, very special. These elephants are so relaxed with us being right up close to them. There we go. Have a look, see if you can see it rolling, that branch. Trying to chew off that bark, the juicy bark. Again, because it's a young one, it's probably still learning. It's watched its mom a few times. Now it's trying to work it out for itself. But an elephant this age will still be suckling from its mom. And they can suckle for quite a few years. The youngsters, I've seen elephant 5-6 years still trying their luck and trying to suckle from the females, but that's usually when the female says, no, enough's enough, you need to move on and just eat food now and drink water like the rest of us. They obviously try to get all the nutrients they can from the female. Oh, did you hear that? Very, very loud vocalization from that elephant. And I think the reason being is I did hear some elephant coming through the thicket there. I can see some movement now. I think that was the one that communicated first, and this female answered. Just off to the right of the embankment, there you can see a larger elephant coming through there. Jack wanted to know And an interesting question, Jack, because we hear this throughout our lifetime about elephants and their memory. And Jack wanted to know, is it true that an elephant never forgets? Well, Jack, to be honest, I don't know. I mean, how do we measure that, and how can we be certain? In my experience, and with what I've seen from elephants and their behavior, I think they've got incredible memories. I've seen elephants coming to the same area year after year, looking for specific food at certain times of the year. Whether it be in dry season, they know where the good vegetation is, they know where the remaining water is. You hear, and I have seen documentaries of elephant in very dry, arid areas that will migrate. And what they do is they move around from one area to the next, knowing where the food will remain longer because of a stronger water supply. So there's definitely a strong memory for an elephant, and I'm sure they don't forget. JJ wanted to know if these elephant will be part of a bigger herd. JJ, I think possibly. And often what happens is you may get herds splitting up at certain times of the year. Maybe there's not enough food around or water, so the herds might split and move off into different areas looking for food and water. I don't think we've seen the whole herd. There are more coming. I can hear them. Just haven't seen them yet. And as I say that, I can see another two moving through there. So, JJ, I'm almost certain there are quite a few other elephant around here. But elephant herds, range from 3 up to 40, 50, 80 elephant in certain areas. All depends even more. Again, the variables of the food, the water, all have to be taken into account. And but like I said, I don't think we've seen all of them. There's at least 3, 4, 5, 6. There's at least 6 or 7 elephant that I've seen around in this area already, and possibly some more to the back. But generally, herds are the females. A lot of the younger elephant. You may have younger bulls staying with the herd, but generally they do get pushed out. The females, once the bulls come into that stage where they're almost ready to mate, the females tend to push them out. And those young males then often will meet up with older dominant bulls. And those bulls will teach them how to be successful, how to find females, and then how to mate with the females. So those young bulls will follow those dominant males for quite some time until they are ready to be dominant and challenge for dominance over a group of females. But with the younger elephant, you'll have females and males all within the herd. But generally, with the larger elephant in a herd, it's mostly the females. And the males will then meet up with them every so often, especially if they can smell that the females are in estrus and ready to mate. And just the female and the calf have moved a little bit away from us. But what an incredible sight. How fantastic was that? As I mentioned, one of my favorite animals. To be able to get close to them, spend time, listen to them, watching them feed, it is just amazing. As I said, I think the female and the calf have just moved off a little bit away from us into the thicket. And those others are still hidden within the thicket beyond us. I think, why don't we go and see what James is up to and get an update from him. Hopefully he has got some more exciting news with those Impala alarm calls that he had earlier.
Now, we're off-road, everybody, because there were monkeys shouting. We've come to a totally different area from where we were. We gave up where we were before. The monkeys looking from a tree right down to where we are now. There were birds alarm calling here, but there are very chilled out antelope. A nyala just close by. And the monkeys seem to be calming down, which indicates that whatever it is that they've seen is kind of moving away, all gone to ground. This is where they said Karula was last sort of heading towards. So we're checking in the tops of the trees. It's just we'll drive around. We're not going to sort of search around off-road too much, but the monkeys were looking straight down to where we are now. Always a good idea to look on top of the termite mounds, into the trees. Yeah, I don't know. Let's go forward around here. Could easily be lurking in the drainage system here. He may have killed something and put it in a tree. Look down here. All along the drainage system. Easily just be wandering off down there. I'm trying to show you where the monkeys are. I'm so glad that young half turns around to this guy into this area here. Let's just have out now. We'll do more head up. Hide it. I'll just show you where this means
So it doesn't sound like James has had any luck yet, but more and more animals are alarm calling and giving him something to look around for. Let's hope. I really do think he is onto something there. We are still with this herd of elephant, which it seems like quite a few elephant around this area. I've seen at least 12 now, so there's definitely a large herd moving through this area. JJ did ask about the elephant being part of a larger herd, and I think this answers the question nicely. So there definitely are quite a few elephant hidden through the thicket that we've just passed through. Another female, adult female with these two younger ones, and that young one feeding close to that female. Good afternoon, Debbie from Vancouver. And Debbie would like to know what happens when two completely separate elephant herds meet up. Good question, Debbie. I think it does depend on the time of the year. Elephant are not necessarily very territorial. They do move wherever they like, and especially depending on the time of year where the food and water is. I have seen a number of elephant herds that I think are unrelated. Again, I'm not entirely sure if they were or if they weren't, but I have seen herds coming from different directions, different areas, meet up and feed in the same area, go and drink water from the same water hole, and they are not phased about each other at all. The only time I really see elephant a little bit nervous and agitated with other elephant joining is when a big dominant male comes into a herd. And that male just causes a bit of unrest. He is generally there purely to look for females to mate with. So it does cause a bit of stress amongst the herd and causes the females to become a bit restless and a bit nervous. Generally speaking, with another herd just moving into the same area or moving around with or joining another herd, I've found in my experience from what I've seen, there's no issue with them doing that. Thank you for that question. It's a very good, very interesting question. I could watch these elephant for hours. Marianne from Arkansas has got quite a funny question for us and has asked, have we, or has anybody from South Africa tried elephant milk? I don't know, Brian, do you know of anybody that has tried anything?
No, I don't think anyone's tried elephant milk.
I think it would be very difficult to get elephant milk, and I don't think, I certainly do not know of anybody that has tried elephant milk. Perhaps we can ask James to try and get some for us tomorrow. Have a look how they are devouring those leaves. Really enjoying the bit of greenery that they can get from these combretum trees or bush willow trees that are around. Oh, and again, the sun has come out beautifully for us now in these last few hours of the afternoon. And it's just warmed everything up a little bit and made it a fantastic afternoon. It's incredible to watch how these trunks work. Holding these tiny leaves and grabbing and stripping the leaves off the branches and putting it in their mouth, constantly feeding. Elephant need to feed. I mean, you can imagine being herbivores and getting to that size. They need a lot of fuel. They need a lot of good food to be able to keep their large bodies going. So they do feed for most of the day. Oh, that youngster. Heidi has asked a question related to that young calf we saw earlier that was lying down resting or went to sleep for a short while. Heidi would like to know how long these youngsters can actually sleep during the day. Heidi, again, I don't think there's a direct answer to that. From what I've seen, and as I mentioned earlier, elephants don't necessarily sleep as much as or sleep like we do, or very much at all. They do generally keep moving throughout the day. I have heard that elephant can rest up to 1 or 2 hours a day. Again, the resting and the sleep, I think, is very different. It's not a complete sleep that they are not aware what's going on around them. They have to always be aware. All animals do. So it is a state of rest. With the youngsters, if the females are kind of not moving around too much, they might give the young ones between an hour and 3 hours perhaps to have a little lay down, but it is probably staggered throughout the day. So I wouldn't say on one particular stop. Notice that behavior from that middle elephant. As that large female approached, it gave a low frequency vocalization, and that other one turned and flared its ears slightly. That's a little bit of a warning sign, but I think what happened was was just a little bit nervous of that adult female coming closer. Maybe the female said, I think I'd like to feed on this tree now for a little bit, if you could move on. And that youngster's still staying close. There we go, have a look. Looks like it's trying to suckle there, look at that. And Julia from Houston has just asked if elephant react to caterpillars or perhaps any other insects that might be on the leaves or the trees that they are feeding on. I don't think they do at all. The other thing is, elephants' digestive system isn't very efficient. They only absorb about 20 to 30% of the food that they actually eat, the nutrients from the food that they eat. So a lot of it passes through the elephant's digestive system quite quickly. But have a look at that young one suckling. There we go. That one's much older than the young one we saw earlier, and it is still suckling. I would guess that young one to be about 3 years old, roughly. Again, it's always very tricky to estimate the age of animals, but I do think that's about 3 years, maybe close to 4 years old, somewhere around there. But you can see it perfectly. Look at that. See how it curls the trunk back, allowing the mouth to suckle from the teats, which are situated, as you can see, under the front legs of the elephant. This is really fantastic. Look at that. While we are sitting here, bird calls are still going on around us. I can hear a very interesting bird calling in the distance. Just behind that back elephant, the sound is coming from that direction. I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear it. But it's a deep sound. It sounds a little bit like a woo, 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 woo. I think some of you might be thinking that is a southern ground hornbill. I know James was trying to impersonate that call this morning, and Brian does a great impression of the southern ground hornbill, but it is not. It is actually a giant eagle owl, or Verreaux's eagle owl, and it's got a very deep call. I can hear one calling now, and they do often call late afternoon or early mornings. They'll sit in a tree, in a very dense, big tree, right up at the top, calling. And I think just now, shortly, we may see if we can try and find that. But these elephants are out in the open. It's just too good to leave. It's fantastic. And again, just have a look at how relaxed they are with us. Michelle from Denver has asked a question about the young elephant or the baby elephant. She would like to know if they are born with teeth. So, Michelle, when these youngsters are born, I do not think they have teeth. They may have the start of... Oh, have a look at this young one. Look at that, throwing the branch. Oh. Flapping the ears, thrashing the trunk around. It's a little sign of aggression. The young elephant often try and show that they're a little bit more dominant, and they test us. They want to see if they can chase us away. They've got a lot of attitude. It's fantastic. And again, it's all a learning process for the elephant. That's why they're doing it. They want to see how far can we go. What is this thing that's around us? And I think the fact that the females have been so comfortable, the youngsters are comfortable. So that's why they're possibly just trying their luck to chase us off. Getting back to Michelle's question about the youngsters with their teeth. I think when they are born, I don't think they have teeth. I think it develops quite quickly a few years into their life. So within the first year, teeth definitely start to form and develop. The tusks will start showing from about 4 to 5 years. I've noticed they start showing from about that age onwards. You can see little white tips coming through, but but compared to the molars or the premolars inside the elephant's mouth, those will develop a lot sooner. And it's incredible how these large animals can disappear into a thicket quite easily, become almost invisible. It's been fantastic that they've allowed us to spend so much time with them going around their business, feeding, completely relaxed and happy with us being here. Wasn't that great? It really, really was a fantastic sighting. Brian has been very excited. He said he was wanting elephant all afternoon, so I'm glad we got to see them. So did I. It's really awesome to spend time with them. I think what I'm going to do is just turn around and see if I can get you a little bit closer to that Verreaux's eagle owl. Just see if we can find him. I think while I go have a look there quickly, why don't you head back to James, see if he's got an update on all those alarm calls that he had earlier. Maybe he's got a bit of luck for us.